The manhunt is over and a University of Virginia student has been caught after a fatal shooting that left 3 students dead and 2 others hurt. The shooting happened late last night in Charlottesville on a bus returning from a school trip to Washington, D.C. The suspect, 22-year-old Christopher Darnell Jones Jr., is accused of fatally shooting 3 members of the school's football team.
Please reach out to each other and lend each other an ear and a shoulder, even if virtually.
Police say Jones has been investigated in the past, back in February, after reports of him owning a gun. A motive is still unknown.
Among those killed was junior Devin Chandler. He's a former wide receiver for the Wisconsin Badgers.
Chandler was with the Badgers from 2020 to 2021 before transferring to the University of Virginia in the middle of last season.
NBC 15 Sports' Leah Doherty joins us now. How is the UW community reacting to this news, Leah?
John and Elizabeth, obviously a tremendously difficult day for UW coaches and athletes. And typically we meet with head interim coach Jim Leonhard and players every Monday morning. Understandably, that press conference was postponed until tomorrow. Most of the players on UW's current roster played with Devin Chandler and were devastated to learn the news today. A few of them took to social media, and interim head coach Jim Leonhard released a statement. He offered condolences on Chandler's passing today, saying, quote, "He had a lasting impact on his teammates even after he left UW, which is a testament to the type of person he was." Former teammate and current Wisconsin running back Braylon Allen also tweeting out today in sympathy, saying, quote, "Rest easy, Dev," followed by a broken heart. UW Athletic Director Chris McIntosh said they're offering counseling and support services to their student athletes and staff. In the studio tonight, Leah Doherty, NBC 15 Sports.